Often us humans are crushed by the weight of our own mortality. We often think when we're younger that we're a lot more invincible than what we actually are, and we come to learn how frail humans actually are as time goes on and that naivety disappears. So today we're going to be talking about Sukuna and his ideals that he represent and how them ideals made him a lot stronger. So make sure you guys do the YouTube thingy, like, comment, and subscribe because so we got more JJK discussion type videos. We're gonna have some more ordeal type videos. We're gonna have some Boruto videos. So make sure you guys are supporting the channel by like, comment, and subscribing and sharing the video so that way we can get more exposure. So I do want to talk about Sukuna now. So with Sukuna, we see that he's often regarded as a this means of ultimate selflessness or the pinnacle of strength itself. When we first get introduced into Sukuna, we figure out, or we find out, I should say, that his fingers are indestructible, in which he's regarded as one of the top sorcerers in history. Now, fast forward to him actually taking over Yuji's body the first time, in which he fights Satoru Gojo, and Gojo tells him he's gonna win. Now, with this aspect, we see that Sukuna is actually still around, in which I know with his personal selfishness, I'm pretty sure he took this as a sign of disrespect, in which he also said later on down the line that he's gonna make sure he unalives Satoru Gojo just because of the disrespect that he sent, that he pretty much provided some of that divine status. And so when we fast forward even further, we see when Yuji actually he fights the special grade cursed spirit, in which Sukuna he tries to communicate with the spirit almost as if he thought the spirit has some sort of intelligence because it was a special grade cursed spirit. So he was giving it a little bit more respect than he actually should have given it. In which once the cursed special grade, we just gonna say the special grade, the SG, really disrespected him by trying to attack him. He took the arm off instantly. We see back in the Heian period, we're gonna jump forward a lot now. We see back in the Heian period, he cuts Yorozu for touching him. We see back in Shibuya, if I'm not mistaken, he takes off. He kills the girls for pretty much trying to order him around. I want to talk about that scene a lot more because that scene actually came up into the anime recently, in which Gege or in what studio was doing it. Let me know down below what studio was doing JJK, because your boy bad with names. You feel me? It be like that sometimes. But he fights well, it's not even a fight. He slaughters the girl with the cell phones. And so the girls, they try to pretty much get Sukuna to do their bidding. And even though they was asking for a favor, he took it as them trying to command him, as if they put him themselves on the same plateau as himself. And we know that Sukuna, not necessarily him being a sociopath or him being a psychopath, but let's just say his pride. His pride itself is one of the big things in Sukuna, where he he sees and he knows that he's above everyone around him. We see this with the Yorozu versus Sukuna fight. Okay, so because we're gonna go to that fight, and then we're gonna double back to Sukuna versus Jogo. So with the Yorozu versus Sukuna fight, we get the aspect of love, of loneliness, of it's always lonely at the top. And so when it's always lonely at the top, you can only look down and gaze at other people having fun, the people who's not on your level. And Yorozu really felt that since she was able to bring in a imaginary concept, like using imaginary numbers, then she was able to be on this same level as Sukuna. However, that level wasn't the level Sukuna was on. So the love that she was trying to get him to understand, she couldn't break the message through to the man, in regards to the way she wanted to present the information to him. Now, next, with the Jogo fight, we see back in time during Shibuya, Sukuna tells Jogo, if you land a hand on me, I'll serve you. Just basically showing how prideful he is, showing how far above others that he really sees himself as. And with Jogo basically not wanting to fight him, knowing the end result of the clash, but still going out there to do it, that made Sukuna look at Jogo a bit differently, and not in terms of being a human, but as a curse itself. Because sometimes you have no choice, but to believe in your ideals or go the road that you want to go in life. And Sukuna kind of understands that when he fights Gojo at the end, he tells Gojo um, that not necessarily was it Gojo or was it Kashimo? It could either it was Kashimo. He tells Kashimo that him and him and Yorozu all understood that concept that it's really lonely at the top. However, they're not at the top. So even though they they do feel this way, it could never really be from a perspective of someone who stands at the height of cursed energy itself. And so when you have that type of pride and someone tries to preach to you, you're not going to listen. One thing we know that Gege was saying that Gojo was going to actually teach Sukuna about love, which was not the case. Sukuna actually already knew about that very concept of love, in which he just didn't want to. He just doesn't see himself in that light. He's the same mortality that we get crushed by is the same mortality that Sukuna gains strength by. He understands that everything comes into an inevitable end. So until his end comes, he knows someone's gonna be there stronger than him. Eventually, someone's gonna be there to put him in the ground. Eventually, but until then, he's gonna go into this fast food. That's fast food. This all you can eat buffet of humans, and he's gonna feast up until the point he's done. And so when you're confronted with your own mortality, we tend to kind of back away as humans, while Sukuna himself tends to go towards that danger. It's the excitement of the unknown that really gets him going. I should say the sight of being not the strongest anymore, because yes, it's lonely at the top. However, he understands that death is inevitable. It doesn't matter how lonely you feel. It doesn't matter how accepted you feel. We all have one thing in common, and that is death. And so that sensation um, of that specific mortality probably propelled Sukuna himself, Ryomen himself, into becoming a cursed spirit. That way, he can get over that mortality factor as a spirit in the or as a Jujutsu sorcerer in the Heian period. Um, so when he goes back past the fact of immortality, then you have the aspect of loneliness. So do you think that Sukuna split himself into fingers because one, he was tricked, or two, because he was waiting, he didn't want to wait in a boring world with no excitement where he could taste all of the things whenever he wanted to, because not because it was lonely, but because he's waiting for that one person to usurp him from the top. And so once you get to the top, there's no one but you. That's one thing we do realize about Sukuna throughout the story, is that how he confidently does everything on his own. Everything is always a part of his plan. Even if you have your own plan, he's gonna make sure whatever he wants to do, he's gonna do it, because that restriction, he doesn't believe in that kind of restriction. It's always around a way around something. And I just love that aspect of Sukuna's character. So now we have right now in the manga with the Yuji situation. We know Yuji learned about soul manipulation through Yuki's book. We also have him showing up with Higurama, in which he's able to use evidence of a time where someone in their life where someone did lie. He's gonna use that to see if they're gonna tell the truth or not. So now this domain won't really work on Sukuna because of the very ideals that he represents. I believe that he's he's just gonna tell the truth. He doesn't care. There's no repercussions in telling the truth. There's only repercussions in lying in that domain, which you get the execution sword. Well, Higurama gets the execution sword, where he can just one tap kill you. So now Yuji, this same Yuji in the story has gone through a ton of different changes. However, this is not a Yuji video. However, but on the other hand, we are going to have to talk about a little bit about Yuji to talk a little bit more about Sukuna. So now we see that Yuji considers himself a cog. We see that he's able to manipulate his cursed energy to a small degree compared to people like Gojo and Sukuna. However, Yuji understands, just like Sukuna, that everyone has that inevitable time where they have to go. Sukuna doesn't care about being surrounded by those he care about because there is no one he cares about. While Yuji thinks the opposite. He wants to be surrounded by a bunch of people he care about, so at least that way his death doesn't seem as minuscule. No, as small. No, same thing as minuscule. Unwarranted. Nah, meaningless. There we go. There we go. It's meaningless. He doesn't want to have a meaningless death surrounded by no one. He always wanted to have a death that's surrounded by everyone. So at least that way he can fulfill his grandpa wishes. And as we see throughout the story, those wishes become his wishes. Which yes, he always brings up his grandpa, but he understands that the loneliness his grandpa felt when he did have to, inevitably end. So now with Sukuna, I don't think Sukuna would feel any loneliness. It'll be a sense of ecstasy when he actually able to go to see that there's always going to be someone else stronger. There's always going to be someone else. There's always going to be a higher mountain to climb, in which Sukuna is at the tallest mountain known right now. And so when he finally gets usurped out of his position, we know Sukuna is actually going to be it's going to be one of the only times we see him shed a tear. And he's not going to shed a tear because he's sad he lost. He's gonna more shed a tear because he alone isn't the honored one anymore. Gojo said that he alone was the honored one. We see that we got people like Kashimo and Yurozu he can be compared to, or even Sukuna to some degree. Small minute degree, but some degree. But now Sukuna, his is gonna be out of him acknowledging that his time on this planet or on this plane is done, and him coming into acceptance of that, and him understanding that there was a lot of things that he could have done. There was a lot of things that he did do, but ultimately he lived his life to the fullest, and that completion of selfishness, that full circle completion of selfishness, and in this case, staying to your conviction. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they call that heading north. I think no, heading south. You head south if you continue to stay the same your entire life, and then you head north if you change at at any point of your life. I think it's mostly towards the end of towards your death. But Sukuna has been traveling south this entire time. There is no north for him. He understands the way the world views him. He understands the way that he views the world, and he understands that change is inevitable. And with all three of those facts, it comes to only one conclusion: to enjoy yourself while everything is here. Yes, you're gonna have to have work. Yes, you're gonna have to do a ton of things. Yes, you're gonna have to lose sleep. But make sure you guys enjoy yourself while you're on this tutorial, because the only thing that we all do have in common is the end. But anyway, it's been your boy Wolf Nara. This is our look into the I guess psychology, the ideals of Ryomen and Sukuna. I'm out.
Cause it only get worse and they try to blame it on your rappers. Label was factors. My rap, you told me sign an alpha.